Hello, I'm going to go over the Chapter 7 homework. This is a chapter about unemployment and inflation. In my opinion, it would be better if these were two separate chapters, but the author has them in one. So what I'll try to do in these videos is cover, in one video, I'll try to compartmentalize the questions related to unemployment. That'll be this video. And then I'll stop and start a new video and compartmentalize the questions about inflation. That's my plan for today. So here we go. The first question in the book that we did was 7.2. Suppose you're given the following information, and we have a table there. What is the total population is letter A, our first question here. So the total population is coming right from the table. Since I'll be writing vertically, I'll do this way this time, perhaps. Mix it up a little bit. We're given a labor force of 206.2 million. This is for A. And we know that we have 1.5 million adults in the military. Military is considered not in the labor force because they're not producing in the sense of goods and services. So they are excluded in our count from the labor force. So that's why it's a separate category there. But they're adults, right? And we're looking for total population. And then we add to that the 48 million non-adult population. And we add to that the 3.5 institutionalized adults, because they're part of the population. And we add to that the 40.8. I already did the 40.8. No, I'm sorry, I did the 48. We add to that the 40.8 Sorry, I had a little glitch here. The 40.8 non-military, non-institutionalized adults not in the labor force. So these are just people that I would generalize as not in the labor force because I don't discuss the military piece too much. That's just a caveat that we need to know in homework questions. So that's 40.8 more, and you add these together, and according to what I got some time ago when I did this, it came out to be an even 300 million. And just as a rule of thumb, last I looked, the population in the United States is about 315, 320 million, which is a good thing to be aware of because when you hear statistics, because there are two kinds of lies in this world, there are outright lies and there are statistics. And sometimes you hear statistics that just seem, I don't know, it's just good to know the U.S. population because when you hear things like 200 million Americans are kleptomaniacs, if you just, we're inundated with big numbers, which I'm going to talk more about with the next chapter. You hear things like that and you think, oh, that sounds like a lot. Okay, all right, whatever. But if you have the context of the size of the population, which is, this is going to be very much rounding, but 315, 320 million, you're saying that 2/3 of Americans have an uncontrollable urge to steal. It's a kleptomaniac. When you hear some statistics, having the benchmark of what the population is handy. Because if you hear that statistic, 200 million people are Americans are kleptomaniacs, you might say, that doesn't sound right. And it's good to have that power. So anyway, that's A and a bit more. B, how many workers are employed? Well, let's see. If I look down those numbers, I'm given the labor force. That's the 206.2 million. And then in there, I'm given, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. How many people are unemployed? And what is the unemployment rate? So I'm given the labor force, the 206.2, and then I'm given how many are employed. So for B, proceed as if that is a B. We've got the 206.2 minus, that's the labor force. And the labor force is composed of those who are employed and those who are unemployed. And in here we were given the ones that were employed, the 196.2. And so I take that away because LF, the labor force, is equal to the employed plus the unemployed. So we have that minus that is that. And that's what we're looking for. And that comes out to be, oh gosh, this wasn't hard enough to even look, 10. So 10 million are the unemployed. And then we need the unemployment rate as the second part of B. Well, the unemployment rate is the unemployed, it's the relevant base is the labor force. It's the percent of the labor force that isn't working. Since the labor force is composed of these two parts, is this over this. That's the relevant base. So you might think about what the relevant base is in each of these kinds of questions rather than try to memorize it as a formula. It's just richer that way. And so we're talking about 10 over 206.2, which is looking to me to be roughly, 5% or something like that. 4.85% equals 0. That would be, I have mine written as a percent already, 0.0485, which technically I would be multiplying this by 100, but whenever I see that tells me that that's 4.85%, or roughly 5%. I just do that moving the decimal over in my head. I have a bad habit of doing that. But technically, we're multiplying that by 100 to get what the percent is. Okay. As you do these questions a lot, you'll tend to have the same habit. You see 0.05 and you think that's 5%. Letter C. What is the labor force participation rate? So for the labor force participation rate, we're looking for the portion of the labor force that is participating over the relevant base, and that would be the labor force that could be participating. So let's see, where's mine written, just so we're given that for C, we already have the labor force, 206.2, and the relevant base is the adults. I would simply call it the adult population, but there are caveats to that. It's the relevant people who can be working. So that is the 206.2, or who are participating. That's the 206.2 plus the 40.8 that are the non-military, non-institutionalized adults not in the labor force. They could be because they're non-military and they're non-institutionalized, but they aren't. So what I would call the adult population, the population that could be in the labor force. So I know that's a generalization that's not on the face of it exactly the right way to describe them, but they're the people who could be participating in the labor force. And that's the ones who are, plus the ones who aren't. And that, again, was 40.8, I believe. Yeah. And that is, the sum of these two is, let me just look rather than think, 247. So, therefore, our labor force participation rate is the 206.2 over the 247. Which, if again, memorizing things as formulas isn't that useful to us. Just thinking about, because then if you memorize this as a formula, you only have it valuable for just answering these textbook questions, which, let's be honest, you'll probably never do again. What's more important, in my humble opinion, is getting this idea that when we're looking for some kind of a rate, we're putting the group that is over the group that could be. That's what we're doing in C and in B. And if you think of things that way, you have something that you can apply to many things in life. The group that is over the group that could be is the participation rate that you're looking for. So your labor force, your unemployment rate, you were wondering the unemployed over those who could be unemployed, that's what the unemployment rate is. Down here, the labor force participation rate is the ones who are in the labor force over the ones who could be, and that's what your labor force participation rate is. So I'm trying to paint this picture with broad strokes so that you can then look at other things and apply broad strokes the same way and get something from it. And just so we have what that comes out to be,